Hey guys, thanks for joining me today. My name is Guy Britton and I'm a mix engineer and a producer. In today's video, I'm going to be showing a simple tip to help polish up a lead vocal and allow it to cut through in a mix. This tip is great for pop music where you want a vocal to really shine, but it also works great in all sorts of other styles and can really help if you're trying to get your vocal to cut through in a busy mix. In this case, I've actually got quite a sparse and spacious mix, but I'm going to use this technique to give the vocal some more weight and some more presence and help it really become the focal point of the track. The good news is that this trick can be achieved using nothing but free and or stock plugins. You also don't have to be a Logic user, you can achieve this in any DAW, so let's jump in and take a look at what we've got. The track I'm using today is a pretty down-tempo electro-pop track where the vocal carries the whole production, so my goal is to really bring that lead vocal out as much as I can. I've got a pretty simple arrangement for this, just a bounce of the whole instrumental track, as well as a couple of lead vocal tracks going to this lead vocal bus up here, and then a couple of BV stems. So I've already done some processing on it as it is to shape the vocal, so let's take a listen to how it's sounding.
I can get so lost, and I look to you every time. I know that it's not right. I know that it's not right. Hey, it's me. I know I'm calling from another country, but I'd like to see you whenever you're free. And yeah, I'm fine. I just feel real bad all of the time, finding the darkest time.
So as you can hear, the vocal is nice and clean and already has its own space, but I feel like the hi-hats are a little brighter than the vocal, and the vocal feels like it's sat back in the mix a touch. Now, I could reach for an EQ and boost the top end of the vocal, but I'm going to try something different which I think is more effective. So the trick that we're going to be focusing on today is to create a parallel send from this lead vocal bus. And then on that parallel send, we're going to brighten it up, make it super present, super clean, and then blend that back in with the lead vocal. And it's going to give us a bit more control than just a standard EQ or, just kind of adding some top end to a lead vocal. So the first thing that I'm going to want to do is go ahead and create a new send on, I'm going to use bus A because it's the next available one. Just going to send that to my mix bus as well. The trick here is to make sure that this is a pre-fader send as opposed to a post-fader send. This just means that any level adjustments we make here are not going to affect what's going into this bus, and that's going to be super important later on. So first thing I'm going to do is label this bright vox, because this is going to be a super bright vocal bus, and then I'm going to create a new track here. Create that track in the arrangement window underneath the lead vocal bus that we've got here. So now we have the lead vocal bus, which is the original lead vocal, along with this newly created parallel send, which is going to take a copy of this lead vocal, and then we're going to brighten this right up and blend that back in. So the first plugin that we're going to be using is part of the Slate Digital Virtual Mix Rack bundle, and it's called Revival. Now, Revival is a free plugin. If you haven't checked it out already, I'll drop a link in the description below and you can do that. It's basically like a harmonic exciter that allows us to add some top-end harmonics to a sound source, and it really sounds good. It brightens things up a lot and helps things sound, more revived. So let's turn the shimmer all the way up to the top, and let's take a listen to what that's doing to this bright vocal bus here.
I can get so lost, and I look to you every time. I know that it's not right. I know that it's not right. Hey, it's me. I know I'm calling from another country, but I'd like to see you whenever.
So you can hear that that's brightened that vocal up straight away. Immediately feels a lot more bright, feels a lot more present, but I want this to be even crazier than that. What we're going to try and do with this bus here is make it kind of bright to the point where it's unlistenable, because we don't want it to sound good necessarily on its own, but we want it to sound good when it's blended in. So what I'm going to do from here is I'm going to go and grab up the Vintage EQ Collection Tube EQ. Now, I really love this Pultec kind of style EQ, and this is going to allow us to do some big boosts. So I'm going to set the high bandwidth all the way up to 10, so that's going to give us a really broad boost. I'm also going to set the frequency to around about 10k, and I'm going to turn the boost all the way up to 10 as well. And then I'm going to select 100 hertz on the low frequency, and the attenuation is going to go up to 10 as well. So what that's going to do is cut off loads of low end, it's going to boost loads of top end, and it's going to do it in a really broad way at the top, so we're going to be boosting loads of that top end. I'm also going to set the phase to linear rather than natural. What that's going to do is just make sure that this parallel send stays locked in phase with the original lead vocal, because that's going to be super important. We don't want any phase issues or anything like that. So I'm going to just bring this down a little bit and take a listen to what that's done now.
I can get so lost, and I look to you every time. I know.
So you can hear that sounds pretty horrible. Like, that's not a good sounding vocal, but the key here is that how does it sound when it's blended back in? So let's take a listen now to this bright vocal bus blended back in with this lead vocal up here.
I can get so lost, and I look to you every time. I know that it's not right. I know that it's not right. Hey, it's me. I know I'm calling from another country.
So you can see that's making a huge difference. That's really helping that lead vocal cut through. It's helping that vocal to shine above the track and making it a lot brighter than it was before, which is exactly what we want. However, we are picking up a few issues now. We've got some sibilance problems because where we've brightened it so much and kind of added some top end, it's bringing out those S's a lot. So we're going to use the de-esser now just to tame some of those. Take a listen in the context of the mix with everything in and just see if we can tame some of those S's.
Right, I know that it's not right. Hey, it's me. I know I'm calling from another country, but I'd like to see you whenever you're free. And yeah, I'm fine. I just feel real bad all of the time, finding the darkest time. It's not right, right. I know that it's not right. Hey, it's me. I know I'm calling from another country, but I'd like.
Cool, so that sounds way more natural now. It's helped to tame some of those S's and just slot that vocal in nicely. But I feel like we can bring a little bit more energy out of it, help it cut through a little bit more. So next I'm going to go and pull up the compressor. You can use any compressor for this. I like to use the Studio FE2, which is based off the 1176. So it's a super fast, aggressive compressor, which just helps add some presence, or even more presence to that bright vocal bus. It kind of adds almost like a graininess to it and helps it cut through a little bit more. So it's super fast attack, super fast release. One thing to be aware of if you are using Logic is if you set the attack too fast, it can start to distort. So I usually like to leave the attack somewhere around about 5 milliseconds or so. Ratio 4:1, I'm going to turn the auto gain off so it doesn't get super loud, and the auto release off as well. And then just going to slam that with a compressor. So let's take a listen in solo.
Right, I know that it's not right. Hey, it's me. I know I'm calling from another country, but I'd like to see you whenever you're free. And yeah, I'm fine.
So this soft distortion circuit also adds some top end harmonics, I feel, and it just, for me, it helps it sound even clearer and even brighter. So
Right, I know that it's not right. Hey, it's me. I know I'm calling from another country, but I'd like to see you whenever you're free. And yeah, I'm fine. I just feel real bad all of the time, finding I can get so lost, and I look to you every time. I know that it's.
So you can hear how much that's adding. That's really changed the feeling of the vocal. The original vocal now feels really quite muddy and kind of dull, whereas this bright vocal send has really helped to enhance that vocal and bring it forward in the mix, make it feel like it's right up close. So that's exactly what we want. One problem though, you'll notice, I say it's a problem, one trick that helps kind of to be a bit more precise about this, you'll notice that we don't need too much of it, like any more than where it is now feels like too much. So what we can do is bring up the gain plugin, the utility gain plugin, and just bring it down by about 10 dB or so, in this case about 12 dB, and then just bring the fader back up, because up here we get more fader resolution, which means that, a small move is only sort of a fraction of a dB, whereas down here a small move might be 2 or 3 dB. So it allows us to be a bit more precise and just kind of have a bit more control over the level that we're blending in. So let's blend that back in again and take a listen.
I can get so lost, and I look to you every time. I know that it's not right. I know that it's not right. Hey, it's me. I know I'm calling from another country, but I'd like to see you whenever you're free. And yeah, I'm fine. I just feel real bad all of the time, finding the darkest time.
Cool. So I'm really happy with how that sounds. I feel like that vocal is way more enhanced now, feels way brighter, way clearer, and you can really pick out the diction of the words a lot more. So we've really achieved what we want to achieve. One thing to be aware of is, as I said earlier on, we want this to be a pre-fade ascend, not a post-fade ascend, which means that, because if we turn down the level here, then what it's going to do is it's going to affect the level that's going to that compressor later on and the level that's going to the de-esser. So every time we make a volume move on the lead vocal, we're changing what's going into that compressor on the bright vocal, and we've already set it, so we don't want to change it, which means that if you want to change the level of the bright vocal, always do it on the fader of the bus. Don't do it on the input that's going into that bus, because like I say, it's going to change the level that's going into the compressor and so on. However, once you've done that and you want to make changes to the level, it's important to make sure that we do that in a way that allows us to control the level of both of these at the same time. Because it's a pre-fade ascend means that if I turn down this lead vocal now, we're going to be left with just the bright vocal. The bright vocal is not going to come down with it. If it was a post-fader, it would, but pre-fader means it won't. So, for example, if I turn this down, we've still got that bright vocal there, which is not what we want. If this was a post-fade ascend, it would come down with it.
I can get lost, and I look to you every time.
But we don't want that. So what I want to do is I'm going to group both of these together. Now, you can either do this by grouping these. So we could go to group, new group, and then we could have volume and mute settings on. But what that doesn't allow us to do is change the relationship too easily between these tracks. So I'm going to undo that. I'm going to hit these, hit shift and select both of these, and I'm going to send them to a new VCA. Create a new VCA, call this Vox, and then create a track for that. And now this is in our arrangement, and we can now control the level of the vocal whilst maintaining the relationship between these two tracks using this VCA. So this is where VCAs are super handy, because we've already got this on a bus. You might be able to, you could always send it to another bus or whatever, but then you start to lose control over the sends that are here as well. So a VCA is the best way of doing this. Create a new VCA, and now we can control the level of both of these with one fader, and it will maintain the relationship between both the lead vocal and the bright vocal bus.
I can get so, and I look to you every time. I know that it's not right. I know that it's not right. Hey, it's me. I know I'm calling from another country, but I'd like to see you whenever you're free. And yeah, I'm fine. I just feel real bad all of the time, finding the darkest time.
Cool. So just to recap on what we've done, we've created a pre-fade ascend from the lead vocal bus, and we've created this new bus here, which we've labeled bright vocal. We've then used Slate Digital's Revival to add some top-end harmonics using the shimmer control. Following that, we've got the Tube EQ, boosting loads of top end and taking away some low end, making sure that the linear phase mode is on so that we don't create any phase issues between those two, between the two buses. And then we have de-esser just to tame some of the sibilance that's been created because we've boosted and added these harmonics. And then we're using a compressor just to really grab it, add some more consistency to that bright vocal, and bring a little bit more kind of the graininess and the top end out of it, which just helps it to cut through. Then we're using a gain plugin just to trim that down a little bit, so we have a little bit more fader resolution up here. Once we've done that, we've grouped these two tracks together using a VCA, and now we have total control over that using this vocal VCA. So hopefully that was useful. Hopefully you guys can take something away from this, and hopefully you can apply it to your own mixes. This doesn't just have to apply to pop vocals. You can use it, it doesn't even have to just be vocals. You try it on guitars, drums, whatever you like, and let me know how it turns out. So if you like this, then please leave a thumbs up and a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe while you're at it, and hopefully see you soon.